Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Well, happy Easter, everybody. I want to reflect on the first half of this year because there's been a lot of good and bad, and a lot to be done to turn things around. You got to remember where I began the year of 2025. I was all alone, and I had a number of situations last year that would have been nice to have somebody to hold hands with during the situations, right? I got a really bad case of long COVID. Let's not repeat that story here, but a really bad case of long COVID where it would have been nice to have somebody in my life. I had career dramas as well. And you know what? Now that I'm dating somebody, I find that sometimes it's just having somebody to bounce a few words off of can be helpful. So sometimes at work, my boss says something that's really cryptic. It makes me worry, and I come home and I call my girlfriend and we talk about it, and even if she doesn't have anything to input, all of a sudden I feel so much better. I didn't have that last year. So at the beginning of the year, and it doesn't help that my grandmother passed away at the end of last year. The beginning of the year, I was at her funeral, and I asked my grandmother to go talk to Mary Curry, to have Mary Curry set me up on a blind date with one of her descendants. And I'm going to get to it, but something really interesting happened with that too. But while I was in Taiwan, I hit it really big with a girl there, and I don't even know how I made it back home in one piece. I was so heartbroken. It was the last day of the trip. Thank God I was staying in a hostel, and the people there, my roommates and the staff there, were very understanding of what was going on. It could have been a lot worse. Uh, Sometimes here in the United States, if you're going through a heartbreak, you got to be careful who you tell. Sometimes these people can find entertainment in stabbing your heart when it's already broken. You got to be careful about that. Let's just put it that way. So I get back to the United States. Unfortunately, these last 4 months have been marked by my return to the dating scene run amok, and me losing my shits over it. Because you got to understand, even though I having a good relationship right now, it doesn't go in a straight line. There have been times, there have been ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, right? I made the mistake of, while I was dating, I made the mistake of renting a room from one of her best friends, and I thought the two of us got along very well. I don't think we had conflict over her. We had conflict over something else entirely. We were too close. What had happened was this friend of hers was doing some kind of research on just personal research. He has a full time job, but he's just doing personal research on some science subjects. And I later learned that one of the big reasons he had rented the room to me, because he had a guest room that he could have used for other things. And the reason he rented it to me was he thought that I would be interested in his studies. We could work on these things together. I mean, he didn't make it clear that was the main reason he wanted to rent the room to me. It was only later did I learn, through some other friends of ours. But I moved in, and I guess he was disappointed. What had happened is that you got to remember, I have two jobs. I have art project, and my return to the dating scene, which is almost a job in its own right. And I don't have the bandwidth. I might like what he's doing, but liking and having the bandwidth for it are two different things. There are so many things I'd like to do myself too that I have put aside because of bandwidth, right? He hurls insults at, because I would come home 7, 8 p.m. after a long day, and I just want to get into my dinner, and he hurls insult. He starts yapping away at his physics experiments, and then when I don't respond, he hurls insults about how dumb I am and how I can never follow. He's so disappointed at how dumb I am with this stuff, or how I'm so ignorant. And at first I tried to ignore him, but night after night of hearing the same insults ate at me. And one day I got very upset at him. I hurled some insults back at him. And I say, well, why don't you go date somebody yourself too? Because I was returning to the dating scene. He said, me, I don't need anybody. I just need my physics. And after a few shouting rounds like that, he threatened to kick me out. He says, you need to get out tonight. And when he said that, it created a lot of panic for me. First of all, I was in the middle of eating. I'm never in a good mood when somebody's interrupting my eating. I know. I need to work on getting better at that. And second, I had all these art projects in my room. I had papers I needed to grade. I had projects I needed to grade because I'm teaching engineering. And they were all in my room. And it created a lot of panic. The concept of having to leave in 2 hours, even though I knew he probably couldn't physically remove me, it created panic. And long story short, we were never on the same page ever again after that. One thing I learned the hard way from that experience is that it is better to try to resolve conflict when you're not in the midst of it. So what I could have done is, instead of every night at 7 p.m. when he's yapping away to try to stop him, what I should have done is called a meeting on a Saturday afternoon when physics was the last thing on his mind. He's cleaning houses. Can we talk for 10 minutes? Hey, I really love what you're studying. I'm not as ignorant as you think, but this is what I do for a living. I got 2 different community colleges. I'm very ambitious with my art projects. I don't bother you with my art projects, do I? And so, I really like to meet that special stuff, buddy. I really don't have the bandwidth. I maybe see how we could come to a different page, right? And maybe offer to move out of there, but have time to move out, right? Or something like that. In retrospect, I should have done it that way. Part of me is too nice. As soon as the conflict ends, I forget that we're in conflict, right? As soon as on Thursday night he's yapping away and I can't get to my dinner, he walks away, he goes to sleep, and then I forget all about it, and then Friday comes and then I do it all over again. But a big part of that was that I was so lost in my dating situation. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these dates, like I said, they don't go in a straight line. People sometimes, like the girl that I'm dating around, she's a distant cousin of Eve Curry. There was a time when the two of us had, ghosted each other. There were other times when she said she wasn't ready for a relationship, and that's one day she was really late showing up to something, and I decided to do a little reading about Mary Curry and her family, and I discovered one of her granddaughters is not only still alive, she's 97 years old, but still had an active university email address, very active. And I decided to email her about some chemistry experiments that I had done. And to my surprise, she actually responded, and she was actually very open to the idea that someday we could see each other. And then I thought about what I had asked my grandmother to do, and so that's something good. And as I was talking to Helene, her name is Helene, I decided I needed to do something to impress her, and I decided to work on a Lego idea that I'm hoping to submit to Legos. And while I was I'm building the Palace of Culture and Science in Warsaw. And believe it or not, I also regularly talk to another celebrity in Poland, and I kind of impressed her too. So now I'm really lost. And so I got a lot of PTSD from my old roommate asking me to pack up and leave like right away. I have a new place now, but I'm so consumed by that I have a big fear of putting my personal possessions in there. And I'm gonna have to think about how I can open up a little bit with my new roommates. I don't even like to record my YouTube videos in there either, because I think my old roommates found my YouTube channel and kind of used it to get used the information they found on there, and just lost. I want to be putting my I took all my art out of my office too, because the concept that I have a lot of fragile stuff. I don't like the concept that I have to scramble and run with almost like a hurricane is coming, right? I didn't like that idea. I can only feel for. My heart really goes out to people who have children. Imagine I had like a 2-year-old child, and my roommate is telling me, "You got to get out of here tonight." How that would feel. It was bad enough when I just had inanimate objects, right? All right, so I'm gonna have to sort out how to not get so anxious about the ups and downs of dating life. I got to fix up some performance issues at work. I ran into a lot of. I was drained, and it showed at work. Obviously, I love all my students, but I was so drained with the dating life. I hope to. I don't see the two celebrities in Poland as romantic partners, but I do see them as connection nexuses, and so I do want to make it right with them. And so obviously, I need to sort out the PTSD situation with my new apartment and not even wanting to bring my stuff in there. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.